The
This
beginner
conference
side,
will now be recorded.
okay, some stuff's going to be a little more advanced. Hopefully there's something in here for everyone. So we're going to jump right in. So the first thing I like to cover with someone who's new to SolidWorks is the colors. So everything in the user interface, pretty much, you can adjust the color scheme. So this is everything from the background and the toolbars all the way to your sketch items and dimensions. So obviously if you're colorblind or something of that nature, certain colors are harder for you to see. You can change them pretty easily within SolidWorks. So I'm going to take you into, I've got SolidWorks open, and I'm going to show you an example. So for me, particularly in drawings on this yellow background, these dangling dimensions, so fully defined dimension goes black, that's easy to see. And then for the default, for the dangling or an unresolved dimension, you get this kind of muddy dark green color. And for me, that's hard to differentiate. So when I get a new instance of SolidWorks, I like to change that. So we'll go up to this gear up here in our toolbar, go to options, and there is a colors tab. And this is going to bring up all the different colors you can change. So I'm going to go down here, find dangling dimensions right there, edit that color. I'm going to make that red, something bright, so I can see the error more easily. So click OK. And there we go. My dangling dimension is now red. So when I open a drawing and I see red, I know that that's unresolved, and I can see that really easily. So other things you can change at color. You can see my toolbars are all in dark mode. I prefer to keep things a little darker on my screen. And you can change the work pane behind your part. You can change the color of the sheet of paper on the drawings. You could change all kinds of stuff. So I encourage you to check that out, customize it for whatever works for you. So moving along to the command manager. Command manager is the big bank of icons for various tools and features that we use in SolidWorks. It's probably the most common way that people interact with the various tools. So you can actually customize this menu to an extent. You can add or subtract icons. You can, like we covered, you can change the color of the icons, and you can also toggle toolbars on and off within that command manager. So just to show you quickly an example right here, we can click on these tabs down here that have all the different banks of tools. If you right click on those and drag out the tabs, so right now I have all of these up, but if there's one I don't need to see, let's say, evaluate, I'm not using that much, so I can take that out and kind of simplify the command manager a little bit that way. So that's something you can customize pretty easily within SolidWorks. So switching back, moving along, I should say, to the S menu. S menu is a pretty powerful tool that you may or may not be aware of. I know at InterLink we have some S menu designers that really make use of this tool. Basically, it's a way to access your tools and features in a quick and easy way. And the default is just to click S on your keyboard, and it's going to pop up these little toolbars. And the convenient thing is that they pop up wherever your cursor is hovering. So obviously, if you're using the command manager, you're dragging your mouse to the far side of your screen to pick out a tool or a feature, and the S menu allows you to get access to your tools wherever you're hovering your mouse just by clicking one key. So this can save a lot of time. Some people even go as far as to eliminate the command manager completely and just use the S menu. So I'll show you what that looks like. We click S, and it's going to pop up a little toolbar here. If you right click on that, you can customize it. It's going to pop up all the different tools and features and their corresponding icons right here. So let's say I use, filter, selection filters. I use that a lot. So I want that in my S menu. So I can just drag the icon down and you can add it to your S menu right there. So now anytime I click S, it's going to pop up with my selection filters for ease of use right there. So that's S menu, in case you hadn't ever seen that before. Moving along, keyboard shortcuts. This is probably my favorite way to customize the workflow. So keyboard shortcuts or hotkeys, there are many of them that are common. Hopefully we're familiar with things like Control-C for copy or Control-V for paste. Those are used across many different programs. There's also SolidWorks specific keyboard shortcuts that are default built into SolidWorks. An example is the space bar. If you hit the space bar, it brings up the orientation cube and you can click for different orientations. Also, Control Q gives you force rebuild. I know I use that one constantly in my workflow. So what you maybe didn't know is that you can actually map new shortcuts. You don't have to rely on the defaults. So you can change the default shortcuts, or you can create new ones. So the one that I use most frequently, anytime I get a new instance of SolidWorks, is I go in and I make a shortcut for the measure tool. I find that to be extremely helpful, and I set that to Control M. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So same thing again, go up to our little gear here, go to Customize, find our keyboard tab here, and then whatever tool you're trying to create the shortcut for, we're just going to search that. So measure right here, and you can see I have a shortcut keyed in as Control M, nice and simple. So then click OK. Now anywhere in my SolidWorks environment, I hit Control M and my measure tool pops right up. Super convenient. So yeah, whatever tools you find yourself using a lot, make a keyboard shortcut and that'll save you a lot of time. Okay, next we're going to talk about macros. So I'd heard people talking about macros at InterLink and I had no idea what they were talking about. So I thought it'd be useful to define this. In terms of computing, a macro is a single instruction that expands automatically into a set of instructions to perform a particular task. So for our purposes, what that means is we can create an icon in our command manager that when we click on it, it's going to perform some task, a miniature little program inside SolidWorks that maybe SolidWorks doesn't do automatically. These macros you can download from various online libraries. People have already coded many of these things. And we'll post a link at the end of the presentation that will show you a library that where we've gotten good macros. Or if you're handy with coding, you can create your own macros as well. It's a pretty simple process to upload them to SolidWorks. I'll show you kind of how we do that. An example that we use here at InterLink is PDF out. So basically what that does is with a single click of a button, I can save out a PDF of a drawing. So otherwise, that would take me something like 9 or 10 clicks to go save as, set to PDF, type in the new file name and all that. But with using a macro, it's just a simple click of a button. So if I come here to my command manager within a drawing, you can see this PDF out tool right here that is a custom macro that we have installed here in our SolidWorks environment. And to show you how to do that, if you find there's actually a macro toolbar, if you right click and go to toolbars in your command manager, this will pop up right here and you go to macro. And these are your macro tools. You can edit an existing macro or create a new one. And that is very helpful. And like I said, we just copy and pasted this PDF out from an online library and it works great. But if you're handy with coding, you could do all sorts of things with these macros. Okay, moving on from there. Just kind of get into a little bit more advanced customization. We're going to go over here. We're going to also post some links to videos at the end of the presentation. I know that there's kind of some ins and outs to these next couple slides I'm going to show you. So if I'm not making any sense, just know that there's videos and lots of resources out there, and you can figure this out. This stuff's very achievable in SolidWorks, even though it seems a little bit advanced if you're new to the software. So for custom threads, hopefully you're aware that there is a thread tool inside SolidWorks that works very much like the hole wizard, that instead of modeling a thread, we'll call it the old-fashioned way of drawing a 3D sketch of a helix and sweeping a cut or an extrude of a thread profile, the custom thread tool does that more automatically. So SolidWorks comes with many default threads in its built-in library for you to use. But even so, we as designers encounter threads that are not available in these libraries. Recently at InterLink, we had a client, they had a valve that needed a garden hose thread. So it turns out, I didn't know this, but every garden hose in America has the same thread on it. And there is a specification that you can find. You can find a reliable source like the machinery handbook or the equivalent to find the specifications for these standard threads. And then we can program that into our thread library and then have access to it to easily drop into a design. And the process for creating that custom profile for that thread is we're basically going to locate the file location for the thread profile library. And then the way threads work is for a given spec, for your ANSI inch tap, let's say, there will be many configurations for the common standard threads for inch tap. And then those are in that SolidWorks library feature file type, that .sldlfp. For the threads, those are all different configurations. So all you need to do is make a new configuration, change the sketch around using your specs that you've located. And from there, save it out, and that thread will be available to you in the thread tool. So I can quickly kind of go over what that looks like here. So once you've located the file, so this is my inch tap thread profile from the library features, SolidWorks library. So that garden hose thread that I was talking about before is very similar to a 3/4 by 10 thread. So what I did was I just found that configuration here in this file and just added a new configuration starting with that geometry from something similar. And then what we do is we go into that sketch, just open it up, and we just change the variables here based on the specification that we could find for our thread. Obviously, you can make a new thread if you want to. I know I'm referencing a specification, but sky's the limit here in terms of what you can design with this thread tool. But this garden hose thread did have a spec, so plug this in right here. We go ahead and save that, and then in my nonsense part that I have here for show and tell, I've got a little shell there that's ready for a thread, and I can just drop my custom thread right in there just to show you what the thread tool looks like. Just pop this open and under our specification type and go to size. All the sizes here, those are the configurations that I showed you earlier. And this is my custom one, 0.75 by 11.5 in H. That's that garden hose thread. And we'll just drop that in there into this cylinder. And there you go, there's a custom thread. So very useful. If you're accustomed to making your own threads, you could definitely see how this would save you a lot of time by being able to create a profile. And now next time that I need a garden hose thread, all this work has been done for me and it's automated. All right, back to our last thing here. Similar to a custom thread, you can create custom weldment profiles. So hopefully you're aware of the Weldment tool, using the Weldment tools to create various weldments from parts as opposed to sketching out each profile and extruding them. we can use the Weldment tool. And as an option that SolidWorks has built in, there's similar to the threads, there's many available profiles, but sometimes we have a custom profile from a client, or for whatever purposes in SolidWorks, that profile is not available in the library, and we can actually make a new one. A similar process. You need to locate the file where those Weldment profiles are kept, and then go ahead and open that up. It's the same file type as the threads, that SolidWorks library feature part type file. The main difference I find with Weldments is that instead of a given part with many configurations, each Weldment is its own part that you can open up. So the workflow for creating a new one is just open something similar and then modify the sketch for your new profile, and then save as into that file location, and then that's going to just pop up in your Weldment tool. So we have used this for 80/20 and architectural tubing and all kinds of stuff that's not available even from SolidWorks library. So again, back to my little nonsense part here. I've got a simple Weldment here. It's 2 parts, and this is just a little architectural rectangular tube here. So let's say I've got a client and they've got some kind of fancy tubing that's got a radius on one side. So I've located the profile here for, sorry, I got some stuff popping up. Okay, this is based on that same square profile from before. And then I'm just going to do a save as, give it a new name, and change this sketch around. This was a rectangle before. I just added in this radius on one side. Nice and easy. And then from my Weldment, I can go into the Weldment feature here for this part. Not cooperating right now. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Edit feature. So right here in selections, this is in the size tab. I'm going to drop down, and I modified this tube with the modifier round on the end. Just going to open that up, select that, and then the Weldment tool is going to do all the work for me. So instead of sketching out that custom profile or trying to modify an existing Weldment, I just created a new profile, and you can see SolidWorks did all the hard work for me because I was able to insert that custom profile. So that is briefly how we do a custom profile for Weldment. Again, if I'm not making sense, we're gonna give some links at the end of the presentation. I know Go Engineer has a good video on this as well that will walk you through in even more detail than we've done here. But yeah, I encourage you all to try this stuff. It is attainable. It seems a little advanced at first, but it's really not that bad once you do it a couple times. And it will really save you a lot of time from trying to, you can imagine if this was a really enormous, complicated Weldment and we had a slight change to our Weldment profile, it's going to save you a ton of time by being able to create those custom profiles. All right, so that concludes our little presentation here. Hopefully you learned something. I know we all use SolidWorks a little bit differently. And luckily, we're able to make a lot of these adjustments in our SolidWorks environment. If you have a SolidWorks personalization technique that you employ in your workflow, feel free to drop it in the chat, and hopefully we'll get some good ones, and we will compile those into an email and share it with the rest of our SWUG community. Another thing I'd like to add is if you have any good ideas or anything you'd like to learn about in our next SWUG tutorial, let us know. Drop it in the chat, give us a suggestion. We'd be happy to do basic stuff or more advanced techniques at the next SWUG. So give us some ideas and we'll do our best to create something useful for y'all. All right, gotta say happy Halloween. Y'all be safe this weekend and have fun. And here are those links here that I promised you in this presentation, and we will share these one way or another with our SWUG community. And now I believe we're going to pass to Dylan, who is on site in Arizona, and he will be able to take y'all from here. So thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it.